Hello and welcome to another tier list on Bond Jam. My name's Simon Jeffrey and I'm joined by, James Turner.
Hello there.
I didn't have one lined up. I went right into that like I had something.
Well, the category we were doing, we could probably do one with this one, couldn't we? My Toro to...
We are doing a tier list of James Bond's disguises. We've decided that means anytime that James Bond changes his appearance or changes his voice or uses a different name in the line of his duty in order to hide his identity. And we're going to rank these based on how effective the cover is, how ingenious the cover is, how enjoyable the cover is, and how believable the cover is.
Yes.
And just our own favourites on top of that. A reminder of the tiers once again. At the top, Nobody Does It Better. Under that is Great. Under that is Pretty Good. Kiss Kiss Bang Average. Barely Bearable. And right down the bottom, in green for some reason, which I don't really understand, Positively Shocking. Right, so, straight in with the first one, we have Pierce Brosnan as James Bond as Dr. Arkov in The World Is Not Enough. James, what are you thinking?
I quite like it because I like how he gets challenged on his accent. So I kind of like that little back and forth between him and Christmas Jones when he kind of proves her wrong. Obviously, she is right, but...
Do you think his accent is convincing? I go where the work takes me. I'm surprised he got any further than that, to be honest. It's not that effective. It gets him in, I suppose, but he's quickly discovered for it. But I would say it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say that. Like you say, he does get caught out.
I think you could possibly rename this category Pretty Fun. It might not be good, but if it's a little bit of fun, then I'm willing to put it there as well. So I'll leave it there. Next up, we have Roger Moore as James Bond, as James St. John Smythe in A View to a Kill.
So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, you may notice I've used the image here of Roger Moore in his sunglasses, and I like to propose to you
and that puts me off.
I'm proposing that those sunglasses are actually a prop for his character in defence of those glasses, even though we've already put them in a tier list. He is dressed as a rather, a slightly foppish upper-class twit almost, and he plays it, with all the cheese and ham that you can muster. It serves its purpose up to a point.
I actually think he's done a really good job of making a good backstory for his character. He corrects people, and it's like, St. John Smythe, my dear.
Yes, he had a rather dotty old aunt die and leave me some horses.
Exactly. He's thought this out quite well.
Within the context of the film, I think it works pretty well. Where are you thinking of putting this?
I really like his whole persona that he creates, so I'd go for Great.
You're going Great. Let's go for Great.
Yeah.
All right, now we have Daniel Craig as James Bond, as Arlington Beach.
Yes. I couldn't remember his first name, so thank you for reminding me. I think that shows me how memorable it is. I mean, even Bond thinks it's a useless identity, so... Well,
as you can see from this still image I've chosen, it's the moment at which Bond dispenses with the cover entirely and just admits who he really is. So in terms of how successful it is, he doesn't even try to make it a success. It's almost him not believing in his own mission parameters, so to speak. But I think in terms of a moment of, an insight into his character, it's quite a revealing moment. And Vesper calls him out as such, saying that it shows that he's reckless. I don't think we can say it's great, because it's not really a cover at all, but for the fact that it gives us a little insight into Bond's character in the way that he dismisses it, I'm going to put it pretty good.
Right, okay.
Where would you say?
I understand your argument. It's just I'd put it in Positively Shocking just because it's useless.
Shall we put it there then, to compromise?
Yeah, I'd say Bang Average for now.
I suppose just based on the cover itself and our own criteria for ranking them, it should be lower. But we'll see. Maybe we'll put it down later on. Okay. Next up, we have Roger Moore as James Bond as a clown in Octopussy.
Now, I think this gets a lot of flack, this disguise. But for me, I really love it. for me, Octopussy is the Agent 47 of James Bond films, because he has so many disguises. Obviously, this is one of the many he wears in that film, but I really like the idea of him just using whatever he can in order to stop this bomb, and that happens to be a clown disguise, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people obviously take that the wrong way and think it's too silly.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This moment is used by a lot of critics to point out the moment in the film where it just loses all credibility and it becomes a farce. But I disagree. I think there's a surprising amount of genuine tension in that scene. It's honestly some of Roger Moore's best acting in that scene as well.
I just love when he's a clown and trying to prove that he's a secret agent to the general.
Let me go, damn it, there's a bomb in there! Yeah. I love that moment. The whole thing is out of desperation, isn't it? He's up against the clock and he knows he needs to get closer, and he won't do it looking like the wanted man that the police are looking like. So, this is going to be controversial, but I do like that moment. I like it more than St. John Smythe.
I'm going to have to agree with you this one. I think nobody does it better. This is a good disguise.
Because not only is it believable, he has such a hard time convincing them that he's not a clown. It's almost too believable.
But you're absolutely right. The only way you could get in that circus, you had to get in some way. The clown outfit worked.
Nobody does it better.
Yep.
Next up, we have Daniel Craig in Spectre, in his Day of the Dead-esque disguise at the beginning of the movie.
Perhaps one of my favourite parts of that film. And yeah, I mean, he blends into the crowd, doesn't he?
He does. It's definitely something we haven't seen him do before, and it's a pretty cool start to the film. Where are we thinking of going with this? I'm
saying pretty good. It's cool. It suits him.
I think it's a better disguise than Pierce Brosnan's ropey accent. I might put it up here, you know.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as James Bond as friendly Dutch man in Diamonds Are Forever. A very brief moment where he greets Peter Franks before going to Tiffany Case's apartment, and he pretends to be from Holland, putting on an amusing accent and having a bit of fun with Peter Franks, just messing him around a little bit.
Well, Peter Franks believes him for a bit. Doesn't really do much else, but I think it's quite believable.
It's a bit of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd put it about on par with Pierce Brosnan's Russian accent.
Yeah, I would too.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as Mr. Fisher in You Only Live Twice, posing as someone from Empire Chemicals to have a meeting with Mr. Osato.
Well, he gets found out pretty quickly.
I don't think it's a particularly successful cover. It's not hugely memorable either. What would you say?
I'd say either bang average or barely bearable.
Is it ingenious?
No, I don't think it is.
He could have come up with a more convincing lie about what happened to his predecessor, because that's something that's easily fact-checked, you'd have thought. Yeah. You'd hear about someone who fell into a pulverizer.
I would put it in barely bearable for now.
Just because it's not all that ingenious, it's not all that successful, and it's not all that memorable either.
Yep.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as a fireman in A View to a Kill. Very briefly, he dons the helmet and messes around with one of Zorin's men.
Is it a believable accent that he puts on when he says it?
It fools the guy, though, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Are you thinking it's equivalent to these ones? Or
no,
do you
I don't, though. I'd say bang average.
Bang average.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as David Somerset in From Russia with Love. It's a cover name given to him as part of the plan to cross the borders with the Lecter.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Sorry, my Alexa thought I said her name when I said Lecter. Anyway, yeah, they don't really end up using these identities because Grant's already taken Nash's place and knows who they are. The plan never gets that far. So, for how little it actually comes into play, I would put it here.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as a seagull in Goldfinger.
Yes.
Now, this is technically a disguise. I don't understand why he didn't just swim underwater.
I guess if it's a snorkel, I suppose it needs to be able to breathe air.
Yeah, I mean, it does sort of set the tone for the movie, and it is just a silly moment.
Yeah.
But it can't help but raise a smile, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say it's probably pretty good.
It works, yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as a gorilla in Octopussy.
Now, me and you have very different opinions on this on the gorilla suit.
Yes, we do.
Well, I really like it
Why?
because he doesn't know where else to hide. Where can he go? The bad guys are about to come in. So, there's a gorilla suit there. Why not go into the gorilla suit?
He could have hidden anywhere. He could have hidden behind some boxes or behind some clothes rails. There's no excuse for climbing inside a full gorilla body costume. He even puts his watch on over the top of the costume. He doesn't even stay still while he's doing it. He looks at his watch. And then somehow, just inconceivably, he manages to get out in the matter of seconds without being seen, despite the fact that Gobinder is approaching him with a sword.
That's how much of a pro James Bond is.
It's
When it comes
rubbish.
to getting in and out of
It
disguises.
is rubbish, James, and it is going in the bottom tier. The clown can go at the top. This is going at the bottom.
Okay.
This is the
okay.
moment they should use. Those critics of Octopussy, they should use this moment.
Yeah. You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Next up, we have Sean Connery as an assassin in You Only Live Twice. He briefly manages to disguise himself by wearing a mask. He gets about as far as being taken quite a long way, actually. He gets carried to the car, or carried out of the car into a lift, and then sat down on a sofa.
Yeah, and if you compare it to Mr. Fisher, when he pretends to be him later on, this is actually a much better disguise.
Yeah, he has a lot less time to think of this disguise, and it somehow works a lot better. He had all the time in the world to think of the Mr. Fisher cover story. He didn't even take the time to figure out who his predecessor was, in case they asked. So I would say this is at least a tier above Mr. Fisher. I would say it's there.
I'd say it's pretty good, you know.
All right, there you go. Okay, next up we have George Lazenby as Sir Hilary Bray in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This particular cover plays a huge part in the film.
Yep.
Your thoughts?
The disguise itself, really good. I hate the fact that he was dubbed for the film, but the disguise itself works, does the job fine. What do you think?
I love this film. I love those scenes at Piz Gloria, and he knows enough about heraldry to tell a convincing story, and I really enjoy it. I agree that, you know, it's an odd choice to have dubbed him for so much of the film, but I would still put it at least in great.
Yeah, I would put it in great.
I can't believe St. John Smythe is up there. Next up, we have Sean Connery as Klaus Hergesheimer in Diamonds Are Forever. He takes the place of the real Klaus Hergesheimer just moments before he appears to check radiation shields at the lab.
Again, it's Sean Connery thinking on his feet again. I'll say Sean Connery, James Bond thinking on his feet.
It's funny because Diamonds Are Forever is undoubtedly a hugely flawed film.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is not very good at all. But you can't help but smile at this scene.
Yes, the annoying little man.
The way that he gets kind
comment.
of touchy and takes on the professor, saying, like sticking up for the little man in the company. It's better than the Dutch man, so it's got to go at least above that.
Would you say? Yeah, I agree that maybe the Dutchman's maybe too high. Would you say great then?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we've got many more great ones coming up, but let's pop it there
Okay.
because it's funny. Next up, we have Roger Moore as a mannequin in The Man with the Golden Gun, disguising himself as a model of himself.
Yes.
There's a lot wrong with The Man with the Golden Gun, and there's a lot of questions to be asked about how Scaramanga got this waxwork in the first place, and even when Bond is posing as it, I don't know if it's meant to be a surprise for the audience, but we can see him moving. He's not still. I think it's meant to be a better moment than it is, and it's just a little underwhelming.
Even at the start of the film, you can kind of predict that mannequin's going to come into use at some point.
The only reason he has that mannequin at all is so you can have this moment.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a good idea by Bond.
Okay, well, yeah, let's take it as read that Scaramanga, for some reason, does have a mannequin of Bond. Bond's way of using that to his advantage is relatively ingenious, and it pays off, and it's successful.
Yes.
But the whole idea is a little bit naff.
Yeah.
So does it go here, or does it go here?
I'd put bang average.
Next up, we have Daniel Craig as a Spectre member Inspector, the only disguise he really uses here is he shows a ring at the door and claims he's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's very good security. I don't think that's enough.
Well, Blofeld here knows Bond is there at the very start of the meeting, so the disguise actually is pretty ineffective.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like the film very much, so I'm having a hard time not putting it right down there for that reason. As a disguise, it gets him in through the door, which I guess is all it was meant to do, but I just don't think that's a good enough security measure to have at the door, and at least, a list of photographs would have been good.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it here.
Yeah, put it there.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as Mishka, the knife thrower from Octopussy.
Well, Grishka actually thinks it's Mishka at one point.
What, from behind?
From behind, yeah. So the fact that he looks like Mishka to his brother at one point.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it works well.
And he stays in that outfit for quite a long time. He steals a car wearing it and breaks into the airbase. He gets into the gorilla outfit still wearing this. He's in a disguise in a disguise. He only really changes out of it because the police are looking for a man wearing that red shirt.
Yeah.
And so he dispenses with it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Moore in a space uniform in Moonraker. I'm not even really sure he's disguised here. He took the place of one of the astronauts, and so he wore their spacesuit, probably more out of necessity than anything, because he was going into space. But he doesn't really make any attempt to hide his appearance other than just blending into the crowd. It's relatively successful, having said that, but if Drax had just caught his eye, he'd be instantly found out anyway.
Yeah, so...
There's not much to say about it. Just stick it in bang average and move on. Next up, we have Timothy Dalton as James Bond as a member of the Mujahideen, where he successfully poses as a member of the drug smuggling operation. No one notices him. He gets trapped on board one of the trucks, and still no one knows he's there. He only actually gets found out because he just comes face to face with Koskov.
And he pulls his mask down for just 2 seconds as well. So.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
I could tell the way you were describing it that you're a really big fan of this disguise.
Are you not?
I like it as well, though. I agree. Where are you thinking of putting
it? It's going up here.
Okay.
Well, tell me I'm wrong. You not think
No, I agree.
He could not have done what he did without this disguise.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as Peter Franks in Diamonds Are Forever. Now, he has changed his fingerprints for this character, which is an ingenious gadget from Q, and it works brilliantly. It fools Tiffany Case.
Yeah, it fools a lot of people for quite a while, to be fair.
Looking at some of the other ones that we've put up quite high, and I'm not sure they deserve to be, because I think as a disguise, this is better than Klaus Hergesheimer. So is it there?
Put it there. Yeah, I'd put it there.
Does he still belong up here?
I think it maybe knock it down one. Maybe.
There we go.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as Robert Sterling in The Spy Who Loved Me, when he meets Carl Stromberg. Instructed not to shake hands and immediately does so.
Yeah.
I can't work out if he's forgetful or just a troll. But
I like this one.
I think Stromberg pretty quickly knows he's not who he thinks he is, or says he is.
That's true.
But
because as soon as he leaves, it's like there's no.
Let him get ashore and kill them.
Yeah, but he does quiz Bond, and at first you think, oh god, he doesn't know the answer, but then he comes out with the answer that Stromberg was looking for.
Comes out with some expert fish knowledge. Where are we thinking here?
I'd say it's similar to Dr. Arkov.
It's equivalent to this, isn't it? Let's put it here next to him. Next up, we have Sean Connery as Bert Saxby in Diamonds Are Forever, using a voice modulator on a phone to fool Blofeld.
Even though he sounds exactly the same in the room, which doesn't make any sense.
I don't really understand how that works. When he does it or when Blofeld does it, their voices change when we see them.
One of many problems with that film that really annoy me.
I'd say it's a bit rubbish.
Yeah, I would.
Where would you put it?
Barely bearable or positively shocking.
I kind of like that. Positively shocking is just one sole occupant of that category.
Go on, I'd say barely bearable then. It works, it does the job.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as Scaramanga in The Man with the Golden Gun, altering his appearance with the addition of a superfluous papilla, a mammary gland, a third nipple, sir. he sticks on a rubber nipple and pretends to be Scaramanga because no one's seen him face to face. It's a big gamble that he
People have
takes.
seen him nipple to nipple. I mean, I don't understand what the...
Well, he's famous for it.
But,
It doesn't really pay off because even though High Fat seems shocked to see him, he immediately then goes and sees the real Scaramanga. So that gamble that Bond took did not pay off.
no.
And it's just a bit weird,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't work. It fails.
Where are we going with this?
I'd say barely bearable because it fails in the same way as Mr. Fisher fails.
Let's go here.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Daniel Craig as James Bond as a chauffeur at the airport in Skyfall, awaiting the arrival of Patrice and then tailing him to the building. It's a very rudimentary disguise because they've already met. It does the job reasonably well. Is it bang average or is it pretty good?
I'd say bang average for now. It was looking a bit quiet in there. Maybe move it after.
Next up, we have Daniel Craig as James Bond as Edmund Slate in Quantum of Solace, where he takes Slate's place to meet Camille outside the hotel, having just killed Slate, which strikes me that he could only have done that given the fact that Slate bears an oddly close resemblance to Daniel Craig. That's the way he presumably was able to fool the hotel receptionist.
He soon ditches the disguise, though, doesn't he?
Yes, I kind of like the little plot development that he's thinking on his feet, but Edmund Slate could just as well be called Mr. Plot Device, completely devoid of character. I'd sort of say it was bang average in terms of just being serviceable to get from A to B.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as James Bond as James Stock in A View to a Kill.
I love how Stacey's first introduced to him as James St. John Smythe, then he's introduced to him as James Stock, and then when he has to reveal his true identity, then he has to say to Stacey, actually, my real name is James Bond.
Bond's just constantly gaslighting Stacey throughout the movie. I do think this one is less successful than the previous one, and perhaps less necessary. But I do like the idea that he's used up the usefulness of his previous cover and so he ditches it for another one. He's kind of thinking on his feet and finding a reason to have a meeting with Howe in the City Hall.
Yep.
Is it pretty good?
Yeah, pretty good. It's not as good as St. John Smythe.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as James Bond as a member of Largo's scuba crew in Thunderball. Now, he fairly quickly gets caught out in a moment that always used to kind of give me a slight scare when you see Largo catch Bond's eye. It's a great moment, actually, when Largo catches him and, silently swims towards him to try and get a look in his eye to check who it is.
Yeah.
It's not a very good disguise because he gets found out pretty quick and it leads into an overlong underwater sequence.
But is it not the same efficiency as the disguise he uses in Moonraker for the Drax astronaut?
Yeah, probably. Just put it side by side.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Roger Moore as James Bond as Toro in Octopussy.
Sounds like a load of bull.
Sounds like a load of bull. I like this because he's got a fake moustache on, James. So for my money, that goes up there. He gets caught out by the real Toro.
And he does look a bit like him.
He does.
I think lesser films would have just had him, Roger Moore, play both characters. I quite like they've got somebody who does look quite similar.
Yeah. Am I being a bit too silly putting him up there, or does he belong below?
I think it is a bit too high up, but maybe great. I'd put it on great.
There we go. Next up, we have Pierce Brosnan as James Bond as Mr. Van Bierk from the beginning of Die Another Day. Not a very successful cover, thanks mostly to Zhao's incredible reverse Google image search that he does on James Bond's face.
When Zhao sends that picture, is he not sending it to Miranda Frost?
Possibly. I mean, I just don't care about that movie enough to try and work that question out, James.
Because he was like, I got betrayed when Zhao sent a picture exposing me.
Yeah, no, you're probably right, actually. Are you saying that this movie is cleverer than I give it credit for?
Yeah, I think I think if you cover the smaller details...
I suppose so. In terms of like an inciting incident in the plot, I don't think that story is as clear as it should be, and I think that should have been the main focus of the film, but it's not. It goes all balmy with space lasers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where are you thinking with this as a disguise?
Maybe bang average.
Yeah.
You want it lower, don't you?
Well, I prefer Mr. Fisher to this. Don't you?
Okay, put it in barely bearable. I don't want Mr. Fisher going any higher.
I don't know. If we put it there, then it's next to it. If you want it in bang average, I'll leave it in bang average.
Okay.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as James Bond as an astronaut in You Only Live Twice. Again, similar to Moonraker, he just takes the place of the intended astronaut and then gets stopped because he makes a mistake. Just as well, really, otherwise he'd have died. But it's not a very successful disguise, but it is him kind of thinking on his feet in a moment of desperation, I suppose, to think that if he's on the ship, maybe he could stop the disaster.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I don't know where I'd put this, though. Yeah, possibly.
If you think the ones above it are the relatively successful disguises, or the ones that we just enjoy, the ones below it are the ones that just don't really work. It's borderline, isn't it? Let's put it there.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Sean Connery as James Bond as a Japanese fisherman in You Only Live Twice. Of all the ones to finish on.
Looks like Mr. Gorilla is about to be joined by somebody else.
James Bond being turned into a Japanese man is a scene that is a very strange one to watch.
Even as a kid watching it for the very first time, I was enjoying the film up until that point. I remember watching it for the first time and thinking, well, this is rubbish.
Doesn't make any sense. I mean, okay, let's just get this over with. It's going there.
Yeah.
But I have more to say on this. So, firstly, the idea is at best stupid, at worst highly racist.
Yeah.
He does have minor prosthetics on his eyes in the corners there. Thankfully, it's not more extreme than that. Otherwise, this film probably would be banned. Also, you see him getting like a wig put on because you see a wig next to him. You see them preparing to shave his chest or something because he says, "Why don't you dye all the parts that show?"
Yeah.
But then you see this shot here, and they've not done anything to his chest. It's still there. And then later on, he's supposedly in this disguise the whole way through. He dresses up as a ninja and he has that hood on over his head. And then by the time he dresses up as an astronaut and then takes his helmet off, he's back to his normal self. What I like to imagine is when they took his astronaut helmet off, his wig got ripped off as well. Inside that helmet, there's a wig.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that is where it belongs. Are there any
Absolutely.
there that don't belong there?
The gorilla outfit.
Oh, well, no, that's staying there. That's not going anywhere. You know what? I am tempted, and I know you probably won't, but I want to move this one up.
Go on then.
Because it plays such a big part in the film, and it is largely successful.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah, more or less.
I can tell you want to move this one. You want to put this one up here.
If only.
It's not going anywhere. We'll leave it there, and we will be doing more of these James Bond tier lists. But for now, we will leave it at that. That's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me, and spread that jam.
Spread that jam, everyone. We'll see you on the next video. Take care. Say cheerio, James.
Cheerio.
Thank you.